Keir Starmer is under fire from all sides, and it's not just the usual political opponents taking aim. As furious pensioners flood the streets of London, there's a growing sense that his government is on the verge of a major crisis, with chants of "You're killing old people" echoing through Westminster. The backlash against Starmer and Chancellor Rachel Reeves over their decision to cut the winter fuel payment is spiralling out of control. This isn't just political posturing, it's real anger from those who feel abandoned by the Labour government, and it's hitting Starmer where it hurts the most: public trust. The protest in London, led by groups like Unite, National Pensioners Convention and the Scottish Pensioners Forum, reflects the sheer outrage at the scrapping of the £300 benefit that millions of pensioners relied on to survive the harsh winter months. For Reeves and Starmer, this move was supposed to help close the gap in public finances, but the decision has now turned into a PR disaster. Protesters are calling it a death sentence for the elderly, warning that as temperatures plummet, thousands of vulnerable pensioners could die from the cold. Now, let's check out a clip of one of those pensioners expressing their fury directly to the government.
All right, it won't affect me as such, but it will affect at least 2 million people.
And it's a massive pleasure of
So
mine
Keir,
to introduce Mike,
please
who we've
change
been
your
working
mind.
alongside over the
You're
last
killing
16
old
months.
people,
Mike's a
and that
tireless
is not
campaigner.
right.
One protester, a pensioner himself, painted a grim picture of the future, warning that there'll be empty chairs around the Christmas table. He added, 3,000 to 5,000 people could die this winter, and that's terrible. It's a stark reminder of the very real human cost of government policies, and for many, it feels like Labour has lost its way. The outcry has been exacerbated by accusations that Starmer's government didn't properly communicate the cuts or their impact on the public, leaving many pensioners blindsided. What's worse, Starmer himself is being accused of targeting pensioners because they're seen as a drain on the NHS. One protester declared angrily, "They're out to kill pensioners, to be quite honest. We're a drain on the NHS, apparently." These are not just throwaway remarks. They reflect a deep sense of betrayal among those who once saw Labour as the party of the working class and the vulnerable. Now, it seems, Starmer is losing the support of one of Labour's most loyal voter bases. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is doubling down on her decision to cut the winter fuel payment, insisting it's the right decision despite the public backlash. But even some within her own party are beginning to question the wisdom of the move. Labour MP Graham Stringer has been one of the most vocal critics, calling the policy absolute balderdash and nonsense. According to Stringer, the decision to cut the benefit makes no financial sense, as it represents less than 0.2% of total public expenditure. The real impact, he argues, will be felt by pensioners, not the markets. Stringer didn't hold back in his criticism, lambasting the government for its poor communication and its failure to foresee the public outrage. He pointed out that the policy wasn't properly explained to the public, and the justification offered by the government, that the cuts were necessary to prevent market collapse, was ludicrous. For Stringer, this is a clear example of poor leadership from Starmer, who, he believes, must take full responsibility for the fallout. Adding to the growing tension within Labour, a Scottish pensioner couple, Peter and Florence Fanning, have launched a legal challenge against the government's decision to cut the winter fuel payment. They argue that the government failed to conduct a proper equality impact assessment before implementing the changes, and their case could potentially delay the policy's implementation if successful. If the Fannings win, it would be a major blow to Starmer's government and could force them to reverse the cuts, at least temporarily. But this isn't the only crisis on Starmer's plate. The Labour leader is also facing mounting pressure over Britain's ongoing migrant crisis. A recent leak of audio recordings from Tory leadership candidate Tom Tugendhat has added fuel to the fire, with Tugendhat downplaying the severity of the UK's illegal immigration problem. In the recording, Tugendhat can be heard comparing the UK's situation to other European countries, claiming that Britain is, by a long way, not the most affected. According to Tugendhat, France and Germany are dealing with far higher numbers of illegal migrants, making Britain's crisis look relatively mild in comparison. However, a new study led by Oxford University has painted a very different picture. The study found that the UK has up to 745,000 illegal migrants. That's 1 in every 100 people. These figures are much higher than Tugendhat suggested, and they have reignited the debate over Labour's handling of immigration. With record numbers of migrants crossing the English Channel, 973 in a single day, the highest number this year, the pressure on Starmer to take decisive action is intensifying. Tugendhat wasn't just downplaying the crisis, he also took aim at Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, accusing him of showboating on the issue of immigration. Tugendhat's remarks are likely to anger Farage's supporters, many of whom believe that the UK is facing an immigration crisis of unprecedented proportions. The leaked audio has raised questions about whether Labour is taking the issue seriously enough and whether Starmer has the political will to address it head-on. The stakes couldn't be higher for Starmer. His government is facing crises on multiple fronts, and his handling of these issues could define his premiership. If he's unable to navigate the storm, it's not just his leadership that's at risk. The very future of the Labour Party could be in jeopardy. The pensioner protests, the migrant crisis, and the internal divisions within his own party all point to one thing. Keir Starmer is on shaky ground, and the cracks are starting to show. Even as Starmer faces intense pressure, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is also feeling the heat. As the architect of the winter fuel payment cuts, Reeves has become a lightning rod for criticism, and her upcoming budget is shaping up to be one of the most scrutinised in recent history. With a massive £16 billion hole in the public finances, Reeves will have to find a way to balance the books while placating a furious public and a divided party. One of the major concerns is how Reeves will raise revenue without further alienating Labour's core voters. Her initial plan to cut pension tax relief for higher earners was scrapped after public sector workers, including nurses and teachers, warned that it would unfairly target them. Now Reeves is considering raising capital gains tax and closing inheritance tax loopholes, but even these measures are unlikely to generate the revenue needed to cover the shortfall. In the midst of all this, Labour's environmental policies are also under scrutiny. London Mayor Sadiq Khan's decision to scrap the congestion charge exemption for electric vehicles has sparked outrage from businesses and environmental groups. Critics argue that the move undermines Labour's commitment to reducing emissions, and it's yet another sign that the party is struggling to find its footing on key policy issues. With the migrant crisis, pensioner protests, and economic challenges all coming to a head, Keir Starmer's leadership is facing its toughest test yet. The coming months will be critical for the Labour leader as he tries to steer his government through the storm. But with public trust eroding and internal divisions growing, the question remains, can Keir Starmer survive, or is his leadership already on borrowed time? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more political updates. It was John. See you on the next episode.